This is One Sentence News, a daily podcast featuring 3 news stories with a sentence-long summary and 1 sentence of context apiece. I'm Colin Wright. It's Tuesday, February 1st, 2022. Let's talk about the news. From Reuters, North Korea tests biggest missile since 2017. U.S. calls for talks. The North Korean government confirmed yesterday that it launched a Hwasong-12 ballistic missile over the weekend, their first long-range missile launch since 2017. This longer-range missile is ostensibly capable of hitting the U.S. territory Guam, alongside many other non-U.S. regions, though a lot of focus was put on that Guam-hitting capability when this missile was first introduced, because the North Korean government is fond of threatening the U.S. in particular. But this missile is also capable of carrying a nuclear payload, which is part of what makes it especially worrying for some military officials, as it could represent a return to regular nuclear weapons tests by North Korea after a period of relative quiet. From Breaking Defense, China's SJ-21 Tugs dead satellite out of geosynchronous orbit. A new report by space monitoring firm Exoanalytic Solutions indicates a Chinese satellite, the SJ-21, has been observed grabbing another dead Chinese satellite and pulling it from an active orbit into what's known as the graveyard orbit, where it will eventually burn up in the Earth's atmosphere. One perspective on this, and the one that seems to be most prevalent amongst defense-related entities, is a concern that any satellite launched by China may now represent an in-orbit threat capable of saddling up next to satellites they don't own and doing stuff to them, like adjusting their orbit, blasting them with lasers or microwaves or kinetic weaponry or acid, or hacking them wirelessly or using mechanical arms with the right ports and plugs. The other perspective is that this represents an evolution in a technology that's desperately needed in an increasingly overpopulated geosynchronous orbit, and this tug-like satellite is exactly what it seems to be, a means of discarding in-orbit trash, and exactly what the Chinese government said it was when it was launched. For some context, some in-orbit Russian satellites are thought to have similar capabilities, and several near-future U.S. satellites are meant to include the same. And from Al Jazeera, Iran's parliament suspended amid rapid spread of Omicron. Iranian parliamentary sessions have been temporarily suspended after a COVID outbreak amongst MPs resulted in 47 infections out of 290 parliamentary members. There are signs of waning COVID-related infections, and in some cases waning hospitalizations and deaths as well around the world. But many countries are still facing the full brunt of Omicron's enhanced infection rate, and that includes Iran, which had to shut down parliament due to a surge of infections in 2021 as well, and saw several lawmakers die of the coronavirus in 2020. And, by some measures, China, which is preparing for the start of the Winter Olympics in Beijing in just a few days, but is also scrambling to lock down new cases in the capital, including 34 new infections within the event's closed-loop COVID bubble. If you're finding some value in One Sentence News, consider leaving a quick review wherever you get your podcasts and/or sharing the show with a friend. You can find out more about this show or subscribe to the email version at onesentencenews.com, and you can support this and other related projects like the Let's Know Things and Brain Lenses podcasts at understandery.com.